Welcome to the AgriPod, brought to you by Herdwatch, the #1 farm management app used on over 21,000 farms. Join me, Katie Shanahan, as we bring together top experts in agriculture, influencers and more each month. Uncover invaluable tips and tricks to navigate the agricultural calendar successfully. Engage in insightful discussions and current agricultural issues, all whilst having some fun along the way. Transform your farming journey by downloading the Herdwatch app today and say goodbye to farm paperwork.
I'm nervous. Come on, let's go.
And welcome back to episode 3 of the AgriPod by Herdwatch. If you missed last month's episode with Cammy, aka The Sheep Game, be sure to listen back as he talks all things shepherding in Scotland. This month, I'm joined by 4 very successful women in their own fields, all coming from farming backgrounds. I'm delighted to welcome this panel to celebrate International Women's Day. Firstly, we have Aine O'Connell, originally from Tipperary, now farming with her husband in Claremorris, County Mayo. Aine is extremely educated in the world of dairy policy and having completed a PhD on milk quality in Teagasc Moore Park in conjunction with the University of Wisconsin. Aine returned home and has since worked with the ICMSA, Arabon Co-op, and now holds her position as a dairy executive appointed by the IFA. Moving on, we have Aileen Barron, who is the Managing Director of Green Acre Marketing. Aileen will talk about the lack of information to the general public for food production and the importance of consistent messaging and perseverance. Aileen knows firsthand the benefits associated with Irish agriculture and uses that knowledge to better the campaigns of Irish companies. Next up, we have Norma Rohan, who is the co-founder alongside her husband Brian of Embrace Farm. Embrace Farm obtained its fully charitable status in 2017 and now is fully operational as a non-profit organisation, the first of its kind for the farming community in Ireland. Last but not least, we have Amie Coonan, who is a farm liaison team lead for ABP. She started out farming with her mother and now farms with her partner on a spring calving suckler farm. Amie also promotes the Irish agricultural sector on social media and has amassed over 17,000 followers across Instagram and TikTok. Well, that is some introduction for this panel. I don't know how we're going to fit it all in the next hour, but thank you very much, ladies, for joining us. I'm conscious of the fact we only have an hour, so I'm going to delve straight in. We have a few topics I want to cover today, but to start us off, Amie, if you wouldn't mind, I know who you are. I'm a big follower of yours on social media. Obviously, we've met as well, but I just want you to tell everybody listening who you are. Tell us a little bit about your journey starting off in farming and now your journey currently very, very busy calving at the moment on the Suckler farm.
So my own name is Amie Coonan. I'm from Tipperary. So I'm working full-time with ABP. So I be out on the road a lot, dealing with farmers, visiting beef farmers. And then I also part-time farmer, I suppose. We're a spring calving suckler herd. And then we also rear a few beef calves. Everything is brought through to finish. So yeah, I suppose I would have, on my career side of things, I would have started out in UCD, would have done animal and crop production. And then I went on and done a graduate program at Dairy Gold, spent 5 years with them, done sales on the road as well for a couple of years. Moved then to ABP 2 years ago. So I'm working now a lot on sustainability and advisory for farmers and a little bit around organising events. So really enjoying that. It's lovely to be seeing beef farmers. I'm learning, I think, as much from them as they should be learning from me. So it's lovely to be out and about, meeting lots of different characters every day. But yeah, it's busy there now at the minute. The cows are actually almost finished calving. We've only 2 left, but we have the beef, the dairy calf to beef calves coming now in the next week or 2. So it'll kick off now again from there.
Brilliant. So very, very busy, I can imagine, when you're full-time working and basically, from what I'm seeing online, full-time farming, which a lot of people are doing in this day and age. I suppose, Aine, coming to you next, going to college, going back doing the PhD and going to America, that's, a very unique experience. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Katie, and thanks for having me on the podcast. Yeah, I was very, very fortunate to get a Teagasc Squash Fellowship that gave me the opportunity to study and get my examinations in the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I did all my coursework in Madison and I did all my research in Moore Park. So it was over and back for about 4.5 years doing that. An amazing experience. You find out a lot about the American agricultural system, and you also find out a lot about yourself because you're on your own and you're living you're carving out your own life where in a place where you know absolutely no one. But it was an absolutely phenomenal experience, and thankfully I got through it and got the PhD, which led me into a career in agriculture, because initially before that I'd done a science teaching degree, so I hadn't been in the ag sector before that, so it let me leapfrog into the sector, which was the opportunity I really, really needed, and it was a case of being in the right place at the right time. So yeah.
Brilliant. Coming to you next, Norma, co-founding Embrace Farm, it's such a well-known non-profit organisation here in Ireland for farmers. Was there any challenges in setting up something like this, being the first of its kind?
That's a question I've been asking myself a lot the last couple of years. If we knew 11 or 12 years ago, what this would have led to, and the journey that it brought us on, I'm not sure we would have gone there. But we would and we wouldn't. Charities are there for a purpose, and they're usually set up out of a real need or a cause, or trying to prevent somebody else going through something. From that element, yes, but charities are highly regulated, highly governed and legislated now, so there's a lot of work in that sector. But just to introduce myself, I'm originally from West Limerick myself. I come from a farming background, and I met and married my husband 12 years ago now. He's a pedigree dairy Holstein farmer here in County Laois, so farms don't move, so I now live in lovely Laois. I call myself a professional gap stopper. Unfortunately, I'm not as experienced on the yard as these lovely ladies here. But we now have 3 children. But when our first child was born, she was 6 days old, and tragedy struck our farm when Brian's dad was tragically killed here through a farm accident. And that led us into a journey of grief and trauma and all sorts of things coming with it. And that's what led to the foundation of Embrace Farm. So Embrace Farm is now there to support farm families following sudden death, any type of sudden death, for a farm accident, a suicide, a sudden medical event. Doesn't matter how the person has died, the same issues are left behind. And then those who survive very serious life-altering farm accidents as well, they have a journey to go on. So we're there to support them as well, and we do that in a number of different ways, through different support groups, one-to-one counselling and practical supports as well. So yeah, that's me.
So coming to you now, Aileen, I know everybody else here has a career as well as farming. Can I just ask you specifically what encouraged this idea for you to go out and get yourself a career, even though you are working on a farm as well?
Yeah, well, my husband might challenge that bit about me working on the farm. I am the silent partner. I grew up on a farm in County Waterford where it was dairy cows, cattle, horses. So I was very much born into that environment. And I suppose, truthfully and honestly, I wanted to go down the equine route. But to broaden my possibilities and opportunities, I went to study agribusiness in Galway, studied marketing then, worked after that in a number of agribusiness businesses in their marketing departments, and ultimately discovered a gap in the market, that marketing just wasn't something that was taken serious, and just thought there was loads of opportunities coming in marketing, there was things happening, and that's what ignited the idea then to set up a marketing agency in 2013. So that's a whistle-stop tour of how it happened.
It's definitely something that has accelerated in recent years, marketing, and I suppose it's important more than ever now in the state that farmers find themselves in. And, you know, educating people, marketing is one of the key tools there for farmers to spread their own message, I suppose.
For sure, but even for businesses to spread their good things that they're doing, there is so much opportunity there. And I think what I noticed when I started out was there was loads of tools and tactics that were coming on board, but they weren't even recognized by agribusinesses, never mind acknowledged. Like, you know, just digital, web, all of that wasn't even very much on their radar. So that's where I saw the opportunity to I suppose, in terms of the education piece, to help companies use these tools that were out there so that they could get their message to their customers.
Brilliant. Yeah. And, you know, we'll speak a little bit more about opportunities towards the end of the podcast, but I just want to focus on a little bit of the challenges in each of your roles. So Amie, coming to you first, you know, being a young farmer, being a female farmer as well, working full time, I can imagine there's a lot of challenges there in itself. But what are some of the few that might stick out for you, but you know, continue with perseverance to overcome them?
Yeah, look, I suppose the whole, I suppose, woman in ag thing, I suppose I'm one of the lucky ones. I never really put a big focus on it. I grew up, everything I learned probably about farming from my mom. So she was farming all her life, and that's what I saw as the norm. So I didn't pay any heed to it. And even locally or anything like that, I would have always got support. Any job on farm I ever worked on, I was treated very well, with respect, and the fact that they thought I could do whatever a male counterpart could do. So maybe I'm lucky in that scenario, but I've never had any issues there. But it probably was because I thought no different. Mum was my role model there. I suppose challenges at the minute is probably juggling the farm maybe and the job, especially around springtime. Now look, with my job, they're quite understandable. They like the fact that I suppose I'm involved in farming, and it even helps me with the advice I suppose I offer our farmers and our suppliers. But it is when there's, I suppose, cows calving or you're rearing calves, or when something goes wrong, I think that's the problem. But in general, it's lovely. It's great if you're working, maybe if I'm driving long hours during the day, and then I can come home there on a summer's evening and go out and look at the cattle, and there's not much stress there. There's nothing really better. I suppose the farm is probably like my equivalent of sport or the gym. I'm not madly into any of those things. So I think the farm is probably my hobby, if you want to call it that, albeit an expensive one at times. But yeah, I really enjoy it. But yeah, it's probably that work-life balance. When you're working part-time, the big jobs often get left till the weekend. So if you have a big day of dosing cattle or a big day of fencing, it's often a Saturday, even a Sunday that those jobs end up being done. So you mightn't get to go off and have a day off at the beach or go for a drive or those kind of things, probably missing out on them. But look, so far I'm enjoying it, and I'm farming with my partner as well. So that's probably our day out is down to the farm to dose cattle or something. But yeah, look, it's good. It's just getting that little balance, I suppose, is the main thing.
That's key, definitely. Aileen, just coming back to you there quickly. Challenges around, you know, getting this knowledge out there, promoting farming in general. It tends to be not something that's pushed a lot in media, you know, social media aside. I just mean general mainstream media. What are the challenges around this for the agri sector in Ireland, and I suppose the consequences of that?
Yeah, I think the challenges are well noted in terms of communicating just how well you know, our herds are farmed, and all of I suppose of farming practice. I suppose the challenge really is that all of the good stuff, as I often say, is well noted and well communicated within our own media and within the agri media. So it's like what they say about talking in silos. The bigger problem is engaging the broader media, which I suppose there's two ways of looking at this. In my role in Green Acre Marketing, our role is to communicate the offering of our clients. So ultimately, that's reaching the farmer. So I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that's easy. It's not, but that is one communication piece. The broader communication piece is communicating all that good stuff to the end user. So they're not reading the farming press. So that's the challenge. Is getting to, as I say, somebody that maybe lives in an apartment in Dublin that has probably never stood beside a cow or an animal, or stood in a barley field or anything like that. How do we communicate the good stuff that's going on at farm level to that level? And that's a challenge. And I think, Katie, if I had the answer to that, my door would be beaten down with more than agribusinesses wanting to do business with us. So it is a massive challenge, and I don't have the answer as to how we do that. There are obviously certain tools and tactics that we can use to do that, to communicate, but will we get cut through on it? I don't think the media are receptive enough to give us that voice, to be honest.
I suppose that's where you see more and more farmers, like Amie, like yourself, going to social media, showing what you do every day, trying to get that message out to the general public, because at least, there is pros and cons to social media. Obviously, it gives everyone a voice to post whatever they want. But in terms of getting your own message out, it's really, really good. Even for myself, I know if I post something, you will get so many comments of people who are generally intrigued. They don't come from farming backgrounds. I constantly get comments, I never knew that's how it's done. I've never seen that before. I'm not from a farm. These people could be in America. They could be in Timbuktu commenting. So it's really nice to see things like that. But I suppose there isn't enough of it. And it tends to be content that's not always pushed on these social media channels based off algorithms and all this other stuff. But I suppose, Norma, coming to you, it is a very challenging time for farmers. Farmers are often, very isolated. We kind of feel sometimes we're not often heard. We're not listened to. In terms of challenges for, unfortunately, the families that are left behind after a sudden death or a suicide, what are the most common reasons why people are coming to you looking for your service? In terms of, is it around succession, inheritance? Just tell us a little bit about why people are using your service.
The people that come to us, the worst imaginable thing has happened on their farm. Somebody has died or somebody has been seriously injured, and unfortunately, I suppose what we tell the public about and tell farming families about is the worst of farming, while Aileen there and Amie and the rest of them would be trying to tell the best of farming. When it is mainly women that come to us, I guess it's well documented the majority of the herd owners in this country are male, whether that be a true reflection or not. Is when the farmer dies suddenly, everything to do with the business is usually gone with that person. You're talking about the simple things around the bank account, the legal, the succession, the administration of the farm, the things about the wet spot in the field, the niggly bit on the tractor that needs work in a certain way, or those little nuggets of information are gone. The wife usually, although we do support some males as well whose wives have died suddenly in farm accidents or otherwise, but they come usually with one of two things. One is their first reason to come to us is practical element. They now find themselves running a business which they may or may not have been involved in before their husband's death. So they're now running a multi-million euro business probably, or in the case of beef farmers maybe not that amount of money, but the issues around succession, around schemes, around legal advice, the will, was there that paperwork in place or not? They're probably going to need to support more than one generation in the family farm as well, as most Irish family farms support at least 2 generations. So they're now making decisions that are going to affect their in-laws' income, and that can lead to different issues as well. It may be welcome and it may not be welcome. And then the other reason then is they come because of their children's grief. They're trying to support their children through something very sudden and traumatic that has happened with dad. And quite often the child has witnessed what has happened on the farm as well, and seen their dad die. And that's something that is quite complex. So they're really the main 2 reasons. And the poor woman is left leaving herself last on that list to look after. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5 years before she's ready to look at her own grief and how it has emotionally impacted on her, because she's looking after everybody else beforehand, and that includes the animals on the farm.
Yeah, very, very, very important non-profit there now, Farm Embrace, and it's one that unfortunately more and more of us are becoming aware of it. Wouldn't have been something around years ago, but I suppose having a service like that in place is great for the families left behind, but also kind of puts it in the back of our minds that farm safety is important, seeking help is important, not only the services you provide. So Anya, I suppose I'm going to come to you next. We have been talking about challenges in terms of daily challenges for Amie, challenges in spreading messages from Aileen, but I suppose I want to focus a little bit with yourself on just challenges for the Irish farmers. So I suppose in recent months, some of the main challenges that stand out might be the dairy beef exports. You spoke yesterday about the dry storage in farms and the nitrates and derogation. And I suppose I just want to tune into that a small bit. It's obviously relevant for a few of you here on the panel. I suppose in today's world, farmers are entrusted with the land, protecting their surrounding environments, whilst also producing sustainable food. So, we use social media on a daily basis, getting our message across, but often the media may use small negative pieces of information that might be a minority in the farming community, and it's often blown up in big screens, and that's what the general public are seeing, as we have seen in the last year with this dairy calf to beef and the exports scandal that surrounded it. So I know farm organisations like yourself in the IFA are working on policies around this, getting a market for these calves. So I just want to come to you first, Anya. How are the IFA ensuring that a scheme like this is successful, and what are you actively doing for that market here in Ireland?
Yeah, so for the calf export market, look, it's condensed into probably 2.5 months in the year, where calves are shipped. I've had the privilege of seeing the lairages. I've had the privilege of meeting the main buyers in the Netherlands. And what gives me great reassurance is the fact that the buyers are still coming back. Our calves are very desirable. We produce very healthy calves. They require 30% less antibiotics than their European counterparts. And they arrive, despite their long journey, they arrive in a very similar condition to those that came from much shorter distances. So we have robust calves that are desirable, so we should promote that. Yes, the journey time is long. We can't do anything about our geographic location, and we do have a right to freely trade with our other EU member states. So we have to navigate that challenge carefully. So at the moment there is proposals going through the Commission on animal welfare during transport, and some of them, while they may promote better animal welfare, they will make exports unfeasible due to increased space allowances or increased feeding frequencies, which just will make it economically unviable and also virtually impossible, because you can imagine the challenges associated with feeding calves on lorries during transport. So it is tricky, and it's trying to find the balance. A key one of that would be actually, it's all about the intricacies in my job and the detail. And one of the issues that we find is that the Commissioner, after proposing that calves should be fed milk replacer throughout the journey, and increased amounts, which to, the naked eye, or to, a person who's just, watching in, seems like, practically the right thing to do. But if you go to the detail of that, and if you look at that a little bit further, and you see calves being fed 3 or 4 different types of milk replacer in a short period of time, you're going to cause a lot of nutritional upset, and you're actually going to end up with a lot of sick calves. So one of the proposals we have is that, can we not feed electrolytes during transport? Keep the calf hydrated with energy and with glucose, but wouldn't cause as much nutritional upset. So it's things like that that kind of catch agricultural policy, because we have a lot of people commentating on our industry and making decisions on our industry that aren't fully informed. They have the best intentions, but they're just not fully informed. And that's what's really, really hard to grapple with. And the farmer's opinion and the farmer's position within these roundtables and discussions is getting diluted and is largely being ignored in some cases. So that's very frustrating. But look, we lobby. That's what we do. We lobby the MEPs, we lobby TDs, we lobby industry when necessary. We talk to all the stakeholders in the industry to try get our points across and to try deliver policy that is progressive, because we're not anti everything. We want progressive policy in our sector, but we also need it to be practical and successful. And at the moment, what we see is a lot of fundamental kind of idealistic policy being shoved and through the sector, which isn't going to deliver for the environment, for calf welfare, for anything. But it's just been shoved through and at a pace that is hard to grapple with. So there's so many farmers farming in uncertainty, and uncertainty is very difficult to run a business with, as you can all appreciate. So that is where we see the frustrations on the ground. That's where we see, farmers engaged in tractor rallies and, getting active and seeing their European counterparts doing the same. Because the uncertainty and the frustration with the policy that has been brought forward in the last 3 to 4 years has made them come to this point.
Yeah, and I think this uncertainty you're talking about is, it's very hard nowadays for farmers not to get angry in terms of, I don't think the general public understands how strictly regulated farmers are, the amount of rules and regulations farmers have to follow, and they do follow them. And I don't think that's kind of preached about enough in terms of at a higher level. I suppose, is there, what can you say that us as an industry are doing well, and is there anything that we possibly could be doing better?
Oh, we're doing so many things well. That's the thing. Our calf mortality is one of the best in Europe, and despite an additional 500,000 extra calves in the country, we have managed to lower our calf mortality since 2015. So that should have went, that should have proportionally increased, and it didn't. We have taken sustainability measures very seriously and embraced them and adopted them at a pace that other sectors are envious of. We have low emission slurry spreading now on almost all farms. We are incorporating clover into all reseeds. Protected urea has went up. I don't have the percentage off the top of my head, but the use of protected urea has multiplied. We went from a case of having no sex semen labs in the country to now having 2 in the country with 300,000 sexed straws available within the space of 4 years. All these things are helping us achieve reduced emissions, which we have already seen that in the last year's inventory. We saw reduced emissions. We're seeing stable, if not improving, water quality in certain catchments, and we're seeing better animal welfare outcomes. So, you know, we're doing things right, and that's, I suppose, like, that is again a frustrating thing. We're asked to do more, we do more, and yet we're still scapegoated by a lot of society as being the main bearer of emissions and, you know, the main source of environmental terrorism. But, you know, there's so much good news in the sector. There's so much opportunities for farmers, but it's just navigating the tone that's been placed on our industry is very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I suppose I just come in there. I couldn't agree more with everything you've said, Anya. I think you've been absolutely on point with everything you've said. The issue is all of that good stuff that means absolutely nothing to the consumer who is picking their carton of milk off the shelf, or, you know, their cut of beef or whatever it is. It means nothing to them. And, you know, you said there, like, you know, you're not anti everything, and we're certainly not. But the reality is, I saw it a couple of weeks ago. A comment was put up by somebody I knew to say the tractors were out the rally in Waterford, and somebody put up a comment to say, oh, what are the farmers giving out about now? You know, and they were perfectly warranted in what they were doing, but the public's perception was they're giving out again. And I just don't know how we get past that, really, is the challenge, and communicate the good stuff you're talking
Yeah,
about.
and I there's another point to it. Sometimes I find I've more in common with 50-year-old men than I do my own friends from home at this stage. Um, I would have way more to talk about. But everybody in all walks of society are so busy, and they're so caught up in their own lives. Like, so the amount of time I give to what food I pick, what food I buy, is disproportionately greater than what my friends do. You know, they don't care. Food is a substance that they eat for fuel, and that's about it, and price dictates everything. So we can talk or condition ourselves into negativity as well. When I talk to my friends, they're from all different walks of life, they're not from farms, and, you know, they talk about their influencers and, you know, the latest toothpaste and the air fryer that they want, and, you know, things that, jeez, I just have no interest in, let alone, you know, but
Can't beat a good air fryer now.
yeah, but, like, you know, they just, while we would be like, oh my gosh, did you hear so and so on, you know, Today FM, or how terrible was that? And they're not even tuning into Today FM. They're not listening to radio. They're listening to podcasts like this. They're not, you know. So we can nearly exaggerate the negative stuff, while in general, I still believe we have the silent majority of support behind the ag sector. People are supportive of farmers, but they just don't have the time or gumption to really care or do anything about it to make our lives better. Like, that's the hard, cold reality of it, you know. People are busy.
I just want to comment on the whole public perception, you know, this perception you were on about, Aileen, and the locals, you know, making comments about, you know, say the tractor rallies. Recently here, you know, I only heard of it through word of mouth from someone, again, in the general public, of you know, a farmer who had leaked slurry into the local river, and it was atrocious, and, you know, was being pushed everywhere. Everyone in the locality was talking about it. I then saw it on a local newspaper, went in and read the article, to find, like, at the very end of the article, they kind of explained how he had crashed the tractor fell on its side, and the slurry leaked in. So, like, I mean, nobody was talking about this poor farmer who had crashed his tractor. I didn't even know, was he okay? But the big headline was, you know, farmer leaks slurry into the river, and I just thought, it was absolutely atrocious, that this is the perception now that's going to go out of this farmer in the locality, not the fact that we don't even know if he's injured, if he's all right, what happened. So definitely I think there's a massive role to play on behalf of media in, they're out for clickbait. I can understand that. They're out for these big nasty headlines because that's what gets the attention, and that's what the general public read. They won't read an article on how great our emissions are, or they won't read something when it's positive. They want to read the negative stuff. But just trying to put a little bit more positivity back into the conversation. Amie, you spoke about going back in getting dairy to beef calves. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that. Maybe tell everyone listening, how you go about that, where are you getting these calves from? A little bit of calf welfare that, I see how quiet your stock are on the farm. So, it's promoting that is good. So just tell everyone a little bit information about their journey.
Yeah, so I suppose, I would have always reared a small handful of calves and used them as replacements for the suckler herd. But in the last couple of years, I suppose I'm rearing them now for beef. So I buy off, say, 2 dairy farmers. So I'm linked up with 2 dairy farmers the last couple of years now. So I suppose the idea of linking with them farmers is, I suppose they work with me and I work with them. So because I'm a little bit, I can only buy them a little bit later because I need the suckler cows to calve first. They work with me. They'll hold on to the calves a bit longer for me. So it's working for both of us then. The other side of it too is the genetics. So with my day job, I do a lot of advice around the best type of genetics to use for carcass and conformation, but also keeping them easy calving, short gestation for the dairy farmer. So I suppose I'm able to, like, even for instance, when I was driving out of the yard after collecting the calves last year, the farmer pulled out his AI catalogue and said, what bulls do you want me to use next year to suit your system? Which is just fantastic, because the bulls basically that he's going to use on his cows will influence my profitability. So it's hugely important that they're working with the beef farmer now to produce a marketable calf and ensure that they have somewhere for their calves to go, and that they know, again, they're going to be going to a good home and well reared. So yeah, they'll be arriving from around Paddy's Day, by mainly Angus and Hereford. We'll rear them through then, and we usually try and get them to the factory kind of before the second winter. So they're kind of maybe 21, 22 months. Some of them might go a little bit longer, but that's the hope with them, is to have them gone off grass. But yeah, I think the Angus and Hereford are great. They finish quite quickly. They're extremely quiet stock. It's great to have them. Now look, the sucklers are very quiet as well. Again, I put a bit of emphasis on docility. I've been around them quite a bit. But it's nice to have those bucket reared calves as well. They're easy rear as well. I suppose with the sucklers, they're a little bit unpredictable with the day job. You don't know when they're going to calve. So the few I have is probably enough. But the bucket calves, you kind of know it'll take you an hour in the morning and evening to feed them. And they're kind of sorted then for the rest of the day.
Very good. Very good. I just want to move on to generation renewal. So the whole idea of younger people coming into the industry, we're not going to tell everyone how old we are. We'll keep that to ourselves. I just want to, it is worrying, 7% of farmers under the age of 35, which is extremely little, decrease of farms in Ireland, and a third of farmers are over the age of 65, which is also worrying as well. Anya, just coming to you first in terms of, is there anything out there at the moment that the IFA are working on in terms of, trying to get young people into the sector, trying to get older people, more services for them so they're able to retire and not farming till they're, into their 70s and 80s is what we're seeing a lot of.
Yeah, I suppose it's all about timing. So the CAP, the consultation for the next CAP, even though it's not for another 6 years, has started, and that will focus a lot on generation renewal. So we're at the infant stages of that. The retirement scheme in the last CAP, the European Commission effectively shut it down. That they said a retirement package would only be suitable from beyond the age of 65. So it doesn't recognise early retirements. So that is an issue. We are also lobbying for a dairy beef scheme for our farmers. We see that this might be something useful for, say, a farmer who has been milking cows all his life, doesn't want to step back fully, or he or she doesn't want to step back fully, but they want to stay farming. And if there was a scheme there to support that, it would I think help. It would kill two or three birds with one stone. So there are aspects like that. What I do see though, and it's very inspiring, is that before we had farmers who wanted to be farmers, but we also had farmers who had no choice but to be a farmer. While now the people that are coming into the industry, the people like Amie, yourself, they want to be there. They want to be part of the sector. They want to farm. And if you really want to farm, you will farm better. That's just reality. So that in itself gives me a lot of encouragement. The younger farmers I see and the younger farmers that are on our dairy and liquid milk committees are enthusiastic, they're engaged. So it's just trying to get that, get more of that. But we appreciate you, like, it's a very hard business for people who don't come from a farm to get into. It requires a lot of assets. It requires the generosity of the people before us to pass on those assets at a negligible cost, not at a real market cost. And there's no appreciation for that by government. So that is an issue that we have. But we are there to support the active farmer and the productive farmer. We want to support food production and keep farmers farming. And that is the biggest thing. We don't want any sector to become like the beet industry or sunset industry. We want, engaged people. But as you said, the reality is there's fewer farmers coming in. But we could see that as a glass half full too, and look at the amount of opportunity that is going to be there for farmers in their late 20s, early 30s is going to be phenomenal.
This podcast was brought to you by Herdwatch. Download the Herdwatch app today to eliminate farm paperwork and make better decisions with your farm in your hand. I hope you enjoyed this month's AgriPod by Herdwatch. Tune in next month where we will have another special guest in store. Bye!